Well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
In terms of being an actor,
Yeah.
I started acting when I was really small, when I was 7, when I was a little kid, and started doing a lot of theater in New York City and occasional television work. And then I got really fortunate that I started making a living at it in high school. So that when I finished high school, I didn't really have to make a decision about whether I was going to take a chance on doing this or not because it was already happening. And in my when I was 17, I was part of a movie that did really well called American Pie, which just opened up a lot more employment for me. And I've been able to make a living as an actor my whole adult life.
Mm-hmm.
So you got work all the time, or it's always some kind of?
No, it was never consistent. There's periods of time when it feels like there's not enough time to do all the work that you're getting, and you're like, oh my God, all these jobs are happening. And then there's times where it feels impossible to get a job. So it's very unreliable. I've learned that learning how to be unemployed is part of the skill of being an actor, to be unemployed and not lose your mind or get too fearful, and maintain faith that the work will continue to come.
What was the longest period that you have no job?
Probably recently. Yeah, I've gone a year or two without a job.
2 years?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I guess, I don't know, there was, during COVID, I don't think I worked in 2019, and then, yeah, it was almost 2 years without a job, but that was COVID, so it was a little different.
How about before that?
Before COVID, probably 6-7 months, maybe close to a year. And then there's some times where you get jobs that they don't pay a lot of money, but they're just a few days of work here and there.
Right.
But financially, you kind of rely on big jobs every once in a while to keep you afloat when you're not making a lot of money.
Right. So
Before COVID, on average, what you say, you work half year on average, or 8 months or 4 months?
There was times I was on a TV show where I was working 10 months out of the year nonstop.
mm-hmm.
There were years in my life when I would do 3 movies in a year. There were some times when I would do, a movie, a play, and a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there is an average that I could point to, but there's just no science to it. And, there's no routine to it. So whatever routine you start in your life changes. And at the same time, once you get into a routine of not working, that can all of a sudden change.
Right.
And you can one day think you're not going to be working for a while, and then all of a sudden you're going to be very busy for a few days.
And so basically, is there tendency that if you start acting young, you tend to get the young roles, so then when you get older, they just don't?
Well, yeah, I think because when you're an actor, your product is yourself.
Right.
So once, if you start off young, you're selling, I play young characters.
Right.
And that's how people know you, and they can rely on you for that. So once you become older or a different type or change in some way, you kind of have to rebrand yourself and resell yourself as that.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be very challenging. Yeah, it's a very powerless profession, because unless you're writing and producing your own stuff, you're just at the mercy of whatever someone else is making.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a movie where there's a character for a white guy in his mid-40s that kind of seems like me, I have a good chance of getting it. But maybe there won't be that being made. And
right.
It's not a meritocracy. It's not necessarily because I did or didn't do anything. It's just there isn't a market for what I'm offering right now. Yeah, it can be hard to rebrand yourself just because you don't know, they might not think of you for those roles, and you don't know if the roles are going to even be there.
So you're part of the actors union?
So there used to be 3, and now there's 2 actors unions. There's the Screen Actors Guild. It's SAG-AFTRA. So SAG as the Screen Actors Guild, and they merged with AFTRA, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. So up until about 15 years ago, that was 2 separate unions. Mm-hmm. And then there's Actors Equity, which is a theater union, which is for acting on stage. Mm-hmm. And I'm a member of both. Yeah.
How is that? What does that mean? You're in a union.
Well, as an actor, you can only do one professional job, a union job, without joining the union. So you have to join the union. What does it mean? Like, what do they do for us?
Oh, so you mean for movie, for television series, you have to be the union member.
Yeah.
But for stage?
For stage, you have to be an Actors Equity union member as well. You can do one job without joining the union, and then on your second job.
This is true for the northern states, and southern states are the same?
Yeah, all American.
Because in a lot of places they have these right to work.
Yeah, I don't think right to work applies to this industry.
Yeah,
right to work might only be public sector unions.
Or no, and actually private sector too. Yeah, just
yeah. I don't think right to work applies to this. I don't think so.
I mean, see, that's the thing, because they claim right to work, so you don't have to be union and you can work.
Right.
And it looks like it's protecting the right, but actually,
well, yeah. I mean, especially as an actor. I guess the thing that actors feel the most from their union is minimum pay.
Minimum pay.
And unfortunately, for a lot of actors, the minimum is the maximum. Whatever the minimum.
Sorry, disasters happen.
Minimum is the maximum.
Yeah, unfortunately, when a lot of actors get jobs, if you're doing 2 scenes in a movie or a scene on a TV show, they're only going to give you the least amount they have to give you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why right to work doesn't exist, and there would be no minimums even. Because what's important for unions as actors is, like we were saying, work is so inconsistent that, this money that you make, if you were going to make it 12 months a year, you'd have a lot of money all the time, but a lot of times you'll make a big chunk of money only for a month. Mm-hmm. So those minimums are very important to keep them high.
And being a union member, what are the benefits and what are the obligations?
Obligations is to pay your dues.
Yeah, generally, how much is the dues? What percentage is paid, or lump sum?
I think it's different tiers, and I think it maxes out at $3,000 a year. But the less you make, the less you have to pay. Mm-hmm. And then they also. So as far as obligations, I think that's the only obligation.
Or you could go to picket-a-lines when it's...
That's not an obligation.
No.
It's and also you don't have to be a SAG member to picket.
Right.
Anyone can go picket.
Right.
The benefits, very important one is the health insurance.
How does that work?
Well, they have wonderful health insurance. It's some of the best health insurance in America, and so it works with they call it a producer's health fund. Mm-hmm. So every time a producer hires an actor for a job, they have to pay a certain percentage equal to their salary into the health fund. So if you pay an actor $1,000, something like that, then you also have to put in $700 into the health fund. And then that fund pays for all the health care for the actors.
Even when you don't have a job?
No, so you have to earn, I think the minimum is 17,000. No, I'm sorry, 26,000 a year. To qualify for the health insurance, you have to make more than, I believe it's 26,000. And then once you're above 26,000, you qualify for the health insurance.
For that year or for
the following year?
For the following year.
Yeah. So if you make 26,000 in 2023, in 2024-25, you'll have health insurance.
For 2 years?
For 1 year, for the following year.
Okay.
So they look back the following year to see if you have it, and then you get it.
So at the beginning you might not have insurance?
No. And yeah, when you start out, no, probably not. You don't get it until you work. It used to be a tiered system where they would give actors that made less money a not as good health insurance, but then they raised the minimum, and now everybody gets the same health insurance. But you also have to pay a premium along with meeting that income requirement.
Oh, you have to pay a premium.
Yeah.
It's like percentage wise, or this?
No, it's just I think it's close to $2,000 a year, I think, for the health insurance premium.
So for actors to get a job, they have to compete with many other actors.
Yeah, usually. And now things have changed a lot because once COVID happened, we stopped going in person for auditions to interview for the job. We used to do it in person. Now we just are making tapes at home. And so they're seeing a lot more actors than they were before, because it used to be they would have to make appointments for 15 actors, which would take up the whole day. Now they just say, oh yeah, they ask 40 or 50 actors to make tapes, and then they just pick out from the tape. So even more competitive now. And a different skill set to learn how to make these tapes on your own and make them look good.
Right. So you become a producer.
Yeah, it's something that, hopefully during this strike they do want to address, because there's actors that are better at making tapes than other actors, which gives them an advantage. But once we get the job, all we're being hired to do is act.
Right.
But in order to get the job, we also have to know about lighting, camera work, and sound, and deal with technical glitches that come up.
Yeah. So what's the status now, the negotiation?
So now, as we speak, they're at the negotiation table, and they're not saying what they're talking about. But we're, I think, almost 90 days into the strike. The writers ended their strike 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the studios pretty much acquiesced to everything that the writers want. So there's a feeling that the studios are desperate to get back to work, and they're going to give the actors a lot of what they want. And we're going to have to wait and see.
So what is the thing that actors want?
The big issues are residuals for streaming services, and
can you explain what a residual is?
Yeah. So because we don't consistently work, residuals are very important for us. Residuals are payments for when our work is re-aired. So rather than just getting paid one time for making a movie or a TV show, we get paid when the movie or TV show is made, and then we get paid again when they show it on television, when people pay for the movie, when it's seen in any platform. And I mean, it's really, I think, only fair, because when they re-air a movie on television, they're also showing commercials, and television networks are making money off of it. So it's a huge source of income for us. It's very important.
What percentage income kind of guess, just compared to the first lump sum? Like
it changes. There's like I work on a cartoon that I make more money off the residuals than I do for the actual recording of it. So when I do the recording sessions, I make the minimum, but then it airs a lot on television, so I get much bigger checks from the residuals.
So in a sense, when you're unemployed, you can still get checks for that residual.
Yeah, I mean, this year, especially because of the strike, but even in non-strike years, I've relied on residuals for my income, certainly for my health insurance.
Right.
The residuals are going to give me and my whole family health insurance for the next 2 years now because of that. And I've been fortunate because a lot of my the work that I've done has been on regular traditional television. But as of now, they aren't giving any residuals or barely any residuals for television shows that air on streaming services. So for Netflix and Hulu. And one of the big problems is the streaming services don't publicize how many people watch the TV shows.
Right.
So when a television show is very successful, they're making a lot of money off of it, but they don't tell you that X TV show is the reason why they're making a lot of money. So because they don't release that information, they don't then compensate the people involved with the TV show appropriately for the success in the show. So a big issue in the strike is for them to start paying for the success of the shows on streaming services.
What percentage of the television movie actually end up in a streaming service?
I mean, I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but it's growing rapidly, and I think it's expected to be close to 100% of it in the not too distant future. I think even regular television is becoming internet. I don't know if it's more than half now, but I think it's must be close to it, and it's grown very quickly. And it's very clear that the future of entertainment is streaming. Like my kids don't know a world where you have to where if you want to watch something, you can't watch it immediately. It's on demand. So I think all television will be that.
But there's still a lot of theaters. I mean, people go to theater to watch movies.
Yeah, well, this summer there was a resurrection in that, but there was a period of time where
well, especially COVID time.
Yeah, COVID kind of ruined that. But there's definitely a lot more viewing at home, and especially because I think even if movie theaters still maintain popularity, it's not going to be as big as it was. That makes it even more important that we're compensated for the people watching our work at home.
Now, back to the union issue. How's the union organized? I mean, do you have officers who full-time work in the union, or how does it? I mean, you cannot be an actor and be a union officer at the same time, can you?
I think a lot of, I don't know the intricacies of the union that well, but I know that a lot of the delegates are actors. There are, the president of the union, the treasurer of the union. A lot of people that work in the union are actors. And then they make their presence felt on sets. They come by and, say, we're here if you need anything. And I don't think those people are actors, but there is a very strong actor presence in the union.
And why are there so many different unions?
Well, there's just the two.
Right now it's two. Okay. Why is there two then?
Well, just because the business of live theater is a totally different business than that of television and film. Mainly that live theater hardly makes any money. And that union, because there isn't as much money that goes into that union, is not as powerful of a union. And being a theater actor is a very financially challenging career, which still hasn't recovered from COVID. Less people are going to the theater.
Even the New York City has all these theaters.
I mean, more people go to see Broadway shows than other shows, but it's not near where it was.
Right.
For the actors on stage, it's similar that work is very unreliable, and there's no residuals in theater because once you do it, it doesn't get reshown, and they have very low salaries as well.
So what make them stay in the theater?
Passion. Yeah, it's just the love of it.
How about this artificial intelligence coming? How is that a big issue for you?
Well, right now it's pretty theoretical, and I think that's the union is trying to put up some guardrails so that now that the technology is there, it isn't abused. But before the strike, the studios wanted to be able to take people's likenesses and just buy them outright and use them for whatever they wanted. That would kind of be the end of the profession of acting, period.
Right. They just take a scan of you and all your acting, and then they imitate you and use a computer generated.
Yeah. So it's pretty scary. And
which one's worse, the writers or the actors in terms of artificial intelligence?
I don't know. I mean, it's my personal interest / fear about artificial intelligence with actors is I think there will come a moment when a director wants a different look from an actor, or they don't like the way they played a scene, and maybe they can use artificial intelligence to adjust their performance, and that would benefit the movie and benefit the actor, and
then it's just
be fine. But then where do you draw the line with that? I think it's a similar dilemma with writers, that if you can make the computer make something more exciting or more beautiful or funnier, if the technology is there, it's going to be used.
But writers can use ChatGPT for their writing, so they can actually take advantage of these artificial intelligence and then add in their own stuff.
Just because it's accessible to them, just because it's easy to do that on a computer, where most actors aren't going to go into an editing room and adjust their performance. But the way the writers settled it at the end of their strike was that they worded the contract that no matter what, a human being has to be paid and credited for a script. So even if it is made by AI, you got to pick somebody and put their name on it and compensate them for it.
That could be the company itself.
I think it has to be a WGA member. I don't.
Well, they can have a pseudo member.
I think I would assume they made it clear that it has to be a human being who is a WGA member. But it's an interesting time because it won't necessarily be the person who wrote it.
Right.
So actors are a different dilemma. Because it's not just a script; it's a performance.
So, is there a tension between writers and actors?
Not at all. Yeah, this has been a really interesting, exciting time with the unity that's come about from these strikes, and an awareness that though there are times we make a lot of money, there's a lot of times that we don't, and these are issues that are important to all of us. And then next year, the contracts of the crews are coming up, the Teamsters and the union called IATSE, who are the people who do, the camera work, the sound work, the carpenters, the painters, the electric grips. So their contract ends next year. So there's a lot of talk that will they go on strike and how important it'll be for actors and writers the same with them during that time.
Why weren't all the unions have contract in the same time?
I think that's some sort of strategy on the studio's part.
They refuse to.
Yeah, they could time it out like that, but when they do it one at a time, it kind of pits each union against each other because all the members of the crew members unions have been saying, we're not working right now because you guys are on strike.
Right.
And it's usually the writer's contract that's up first. It's usually the writer's contract's up first, then the directors, then the actors.
So directors have their own union.
And then the directors have their own union. And they made a deal early on without going on strike this year.
But the directors are the ones that hire you.
They're part of the process.
When you do audition, don't you just go to directors?
No, directors, producers, studios. It's not just one person.
Okay.
And sometimes a director is much more involved and sometimes they're not involved at all.
Mm-hmm.
On television, a lot of times the director's job is just to make sure the work of the day gets done and it looks the way the producers want it to look. But then there's directors that really do control every little thing.
So a television or a movie, you have producers just like one person or something? You have many directors?
You only have one director, but you have lots of producers. And what's interesting is a thing just came out that I just read about where there are producers who are just as much hired hands as the writers and the actors. So a producer will sometimes find a script that a writer wrote and say, I'm going to try to get this made. And that producer will then try to find a director to bring on board and then take the whole project to a studio. And then the studio will say, okay, great. We're going to you now are going to help us make this movie. You're going to produce it and we're going to be the money behind it. So a lot of these producers are now on the side of the studios during the strike, but they feel like we're not part of that world. We're also being hired to make these things too.
Mm-hmm.
And the article was about how they feel unfairly lumped with the studios.
But so directors are each show are just only one. Why would they need a union?
Well, the directors, similar thing is, residuals, that they direct a show and then it airs and airs and airs and airs. And, there's TV shows on now that were made 20 years ago that television networks are still making money off of, but they want to get paid. I guess some of the issues for directors, it's similar things. Another thing that, actors unions provide us is off time, making sure we're not working 24 hours a day and we get paid when we're brought in too early. Directors are the same thing. And then the directors union also represents assistant directors and stage managers who aren't the directors, but, are kind of part of the leadership of a set. And they work very long hours. So I would assume their union, ensures they get their overtime and health benefits as well. And I'm sure health insurance for them is the same as actors. They need the union for the health insurance.
Now, in this relationship between the actors and directors, like if you see something you think you have some suggestions on how to change, how does that work through? Do you?
It depends on the director. Some people are very, very open to it. Some not at all.
You have all these experiences.
Yeah, they're very different. Some directors are very hands-off, and some micromanage every little detail. And there isn't one better way to do it than others. I found part of the skill of being of an actor is being open to all the different styles of the directors that you'll meet.
So basically, I can just see that every job you get, you meet all different new people. You don't have a consistent crew.
It's new people. It's a new project with new skills required, new rhythms.
Right.
And
unless you be on a TV show,
when you're on a long running series, you kind of know what to expect when you go into work. But even with that, when a long-running TV show usually has a different director each episode. Some of them come back, but each episode will be someone.
But your crew member,
member is always the same,
right?
A little bit of turnaround,
Right?
And you get used to what needs to be done, what your day is going to be like, how to preserve energy and all that. But then you do a different TV show, and it could be a whole different skill set, which makes it very exciting.
Yeah, but make organizing very bad. I mean, how do you organize union? How does the union able to form under this condition?
Why? But once you're hired, you're hired. I think the things that I'm talking about are, just what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah. But however, it's like you always see if you're in a set place with set group of people, you have contact, you have trust. Right. So you want to organize a union somehow easier. But when you have every time you are very different, very individualistic, and
that's this reason, I guess, why there's just one big union and there's not like a union for the Netflix actors and a union for the Warner Brothers actors, because each company has their own way of doing things. So it is nice that there is a set of rules for the entire industry. And
how was that came about? I mean, it's not like actors didn't always have a union. How was it formed?
I don't know how it was formed.
In the 30s, maybe?
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, I do know, residuals didn't come about till the 60s. So, and each time there's been new technology, there has been a strike. I don't know about the original formation of the union, that story. But I do know that the unity of the union has been very important as the industry has changed. And the challenges that we face now in the entertainment industry just didn't exist 30, 40 years ago.
Won't it be incentive to have individual actors deal with the directors and bypass the union?
Incentive for
the actor?
Definitely not for the actor. Definitely not for the actor. I think because there's so much passion involved, and because it can be a very hard job to get, and because it's a lot of people's dreams, and you feel so lucky to get a job, that I think a lot of actors, especially starting out, would be willing to do it for free.
Right.
And
so one that directors hire these ones that work for free. Why do I want to hire a union member?
That's just well, they have to hire union members. Once you hire non-union actors, you're a non-union job, and then you can't have any other union actors. So you can make a non-union movie but you have to be all non-union actors. You can't select some union, some non-union. Either you're all union or all non-union.
Well, what's preventing them to do a mixture?
It's against the law. It's against the rules to do a mixture, and what's preventing them from doing it is then you miss out on the good actors. All the good actors are in the union. So if you can't use any union members, you're probably not going to have
any good actors.
And you might, but chances are you're going to want the union members.
I'm just curious. I mean, how? Because being an actor, especially the good actors, they do have a lot of bargaining power.
I think it's a select few that have that bargaining power.
Right.
And I think there's been times in my life where I've had some of that bargaining power, but on the whole, not really. Because there's movie stars who can ask for whatever they want, and the decisions they make have profound effects on the whole project. But the vast majority of actors don't have that power, and without the union, they won't have any negotiating power.
What does union provide to the? I mean, I try to understand the logic behind that. I mean,
what does union provide to the actor? Or
to the actors. What kind of bargaining power does that? Because union only gives you in terms of working hours, compensations, that kind of stuff. But actual pay isn't union doesn't dictate, right?
Beyond the minimum, no. Well, there's the minimum,
Right.
and then you get your negotiation.
So this movie stars that they got millions, and
Right.
very high.
So you're saying what does the union provide? I mean,
For movie stars. I mean, for
the movie stars, the union isn't for the movie stars. That they're not. I mean, the movie stars are contributing a lot of money via the dues and
right.
whatnot, but the union exists to protect the not movie stars.
Not movie stars,
Yeah.
which is an overwhelming majority.
I mean, I think the number is something like it's less than 5% of SAG members make their living in the entertainment industry. Of all the membership, a very tiny fraction of the membership actually puts food on their table via acting. Are union members that aren't even working. So, but I'm saying then there's the people that aren't movie stars that are working but not making a ton of money.
Yeah.
That's where the union is really protecting them. And then and then there's the mid-level actors or the somewhat successful actors. That just making sure there's a level of care when we're traveling or. Hours working or working conditions, because a movie set is a lot has to get done in a short period of time, and if there wasn't some union protections, people would just get worked into the ground very unfairly.
Just long hours.
Very long hours. It takes a long time.
So because this is producers or the directors that tend to push you to finish this cut.
Yeah, I mean the quicker they get it done, the cheaper it is. And if you have a scene that takes place in a big house, you have to rent that house, and you have to get it done before your rental period of that house is done. So you have to do all the shots, and you have to light it and get all the things ready and then make it look good. And you're not going to leave that house till you get it done. So if it wasn't for the union protecting us, they would just work us all night.
Oh, I see. So they want to make sure to get the most out of you.
Yeah, exactly. And make sure that we get breaks, and get rest too.
So, for example, you cannot work longer than how many hours each time?
The way they do it is it's actually turnaround. So I think after 10 hours you get overtime. And then after like 14 hours, you get double time. And then you have to take a break every 6 hours for a meal. But after the end of the day, you have to get at least 12 hours off. And if you don't get that 12 hours off, they pay a penalty, which a lot of actors get excited when you get that penalty because it just seems like free money sometimes. But yeah, it's important because those long days that kind of fall into each other can be so exhausting and hard to do your job when you're not getting rest.
But won't there be in the interest of the director or producer that you have good rest?
You'd think. Some do, some don't. I was on a TV show where the producers insisted that we stopped working after 12 hours. Most TV shows work 15, 16, 17 hours a day every day because they have so much to do. But these producers felt like, after 12 hours, you're just not making a good product and you're making a lot of mistakes. So whatever work you're getting done really isn't worth it. But that was just their style of doing it. That wasn't a universal thing. A lot of most TV shows work 15, 16, 17 hours a day. It's really hard.
Yeah, then people are exhausted.
People are exhausted, but they make a lot of money because of their unions. They're making, some of the crew members are making $60, $70 an hour and then overtime.